Time for our message. Here to introduce to you this phenomenal woman. She's the pastor of St. Paul's United Methodist Church, which is right down the street. In her speech, I'm going to let her speak for herself tonight, but her short biography is on the back of the program. But Dr. Jessica Davis' speech this evening is published in her best-selling civil rights book called The American Voice Tour, Martin Luther King Jr. And at the end of the program this evening, she has a limited number of copies that she will autograph for you. The books are $10, and she will be out in the foyer at the conclusion of the service. You can see her then and get a copy of her book. That is what she is going to speak tonight from that book, The American Voice Tour, Martin Luther King Jr. I introduce to you and present to you Dr. Jessica Davis. Let's give her a hand as she comes.
I greet you this evening. I bring greetings from St. Paul United Methodist Church, where I have the blessing to serve a loving people. And I want to recognize my lay leader, Sister Betty Parker. Just wave. They all know you. Amen. And the chair of church council, Sister Jane Harris, just wave, amen. And I'm going to stop there, amen. But it's good to see members of St. Paul out tonight. We have gathered here this evening to remember and celebrate the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to keep his American voice alive. First, I want to take this opportunity to remind each of you to never forget the 15-year struggle behind the creation of the United States federal holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. In 1968, Michigan Congressman John Conyers introduced legislation for a commemorative holiday 4 days after King's assassination on April 4th on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. The bill stalled in 1968, and in response, 6 million Americans signed petitions to endorse the holiday. Then New York Representative Shirley Chisholm joined Congressman Conyers and resubmitted the legislation. They submitted this legislation session after session until 1983. Congress finally passed the holiday legislation, and the late President Ronald Reagan signed it into law in 1983. Let us never forget the struggle, or we indeed will be destined to repeat it. As I began to reflect on this general for justice, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in my life story and the legacy he left for this generation and the generations to follow, I also began to think about another general for justice in my life story. I want to reflect on the Reverend Ida McNeil Davis and the legacy she left as well. Ida McNeil Davis is my mother. She took her last breath on January 15th, 2002, in the same way she took her first breath on July 16, 1930. As you know, January 15th is the birthday of Dr. King. He took his first breath on January 15, 1929. My mother, Reverend Ida Davis, was not only the mother of 7 children, but she also represents the mothers of the struggle for justice in America's history, who grew up in the segregated South. I can stand before you tonight because of her dream, being deeply rooted in the American dream, a statement so eloquently articulated by Dr. King. Let us never forget the struggle, for we indeed will be destined to repeat it. On July 16, 1930, Linus and Nellie McNeil became the proud parents of Ida McNeil in Lillyton, North Carolina. Because her father died prematurely and her mother had to work as a housekeeper to survive, my grandmother Nellie sent my mother to live with her father, Marshall McNeil. My great-grandfather was a sharecropper. Yes, I am the great-granddaughter of a sharecropper. For those of you who may not know the role of the sharecropper in America's history, let me help you. My great-grandfather did not receive his mule and 40 acres of land. Great-grandfather Marshall lived on and harvested the land for a landowner who was a slave owner. Yes, my great-grandfather would never own his land. Sharecropper is another word for indentured servitude or slavery, if you will. Let us never forget the struggle, or we indeed will be destined to repeat it. My mother grew up in the segregated South. When she graduated from Harnett County High School in Dunn, North Carolina, she was offered a housekeeping job as her graduation gift. This was a great achievement in an environment of many obstacles and at this point in history. And today, in many of our urban and rural communities, young men and women are facing similar or identical obstacles. An educated housekeeper in the 1940s in the South was an invaluable commodity. But my mother breached the visible and invisible social constraints of her time and said, "No, I am moving north and going to college." She packed her one suitcase and moved to Baltimore, Maryland. She joined the migration of African Americans from the South to the North in pursuit of human dignity, human potential, and social justice. Let us never forget the struggle, for we indeed will be destined to repeat it. The pursuits of these two great generals and others in my life story for human dignity, human potential, and social justice lead me to this moment in time today. I am compelled today by their pursuits and legacies to sound the shofar of justice and speak to America this evening. America will never be the America she so desires to be until she moves from keeping Dr. King's dream alive to fulfilling the dream. So I have come to speak to you, America, about not only keeping the dream alive of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but to say it is now time to fulfill the dream. Let us never forget that we are standing on the shoulders of men, women, boys, and girls who suffered and died for the pursuit of the goals of Dr. King's dream. The pursuit of dignity, human potential, and social justice that is deeply rooted in the American dream. We cannot let their deaths ever be in vain. The generations here tonight listening to the blowing of this shofar of justice have a responsibility. Let us never forget the struggle, or we indeed will be destined to repeat it. As I talk to you, America, this evening, I invite you, Mr. Citizen and Mrs. Citizen, to hear me. I invite you, Father Citizen and Mother Citizen, to hear me as well. As I talk to you, America, this evening, I invite you, son citizen and daughter citizen. I invite you, sister citizen and brother citizen. I invite you, aunt citizen and uncle citizen. I also invite you, illegal citizen. Yes, you, illegal citizen. You know, I cannot continue to ignore you because you are here. I recognize that you have put your life in danger to sit in the bosom of America's shores in pursuit of the American dream. For some, you have put yourselves in danger by the way you arrived. And others, by the decision to break the immigration laws of this land. Let me say to you tonight that your legal status does not exempt you from taking a role in the destiny of America. You will still be held responsible as the other men and women of this nation are being held responsible tonight for the destiny of this nation. As an American citizen, we cannot let you continue to drink from the breast of America and not give back to her. We invite you to join us tonight to help America fulfill her dream. We invite you to sit around the table of injustice until it becomes a table of justice for all. When this happens, America will be the America she is destined to be. Illegal citizen, if you decide not to join us, you will find yourself joining the disenfranchised of this nation. And America will never be the America she is so destined to be for you. Let us never forget the struggle, for we indeed will be destined to repeat it. There are many categories of citizenship. Tonight, I want to talk to the American citizen. America, do you hear the sound of the ram's horn calling for a new America to rise out of the ashes of social injustice? Do you hear it tonight? I hear my mother's voice tonight as never before. I hear Dr. King's voice tonight as well. Both are saying the dream must be fulfilled. I am compelled this evening, as I have never been compelled before, to challenge each of you to fulfill King's dream in your souls, homes, schools, communities, churches, synagogues, mosques, and nation. Let's stop for a moment. Take this second and look into the eyes of the person sitting on your right. Look into their eyes. Look into their eyes. As you look into his or her eyes, keep looking. You are saying, I acknowledge the dignity, the worth, and sacredness of your human personality. Now say to that person, as if your words could move mountains. You ready? Yeah. Say, I am holding you responsible for the destiny of our nation. Now turn to the person on your left and say again, I am holding you responsible for the destiny of our nation. From this point on, look into the eyes of every person you meet until they recognize that you recognize the dignity, worth, and sacredness of their human personality. Your eyes are the windows to your soul. I can look in your eyes and know whether you hate or love me. We must take responsibility for our own destiny. If we don't, no one else will. Let us never forget the struggle, or we indeed will be destined to repeat it. How long will we continue to blame others for what is now our responsibility? The blood of those who suffered and died on the ships, the shores, the fields, the ghettos, and the reservations of America cries out from the streets of the nation tonight for justice. Do you not hear Rachel weeping for her children in the streets of New Orleans? Do we not hear Mr. Eric Gardner gasping for his last breath on the streets of New York? We continue to live as if the state of affairs is someone else's problem. We look for media outlets throughout this nation to give voice to the state of affairs. I would rather that we give our own voices to the state of affairs. For America to be the America that she so desires to be, the state of affairs cannot be relegated to 30-second sound bites and video clips. This is not necessarily a criticism of the media, rather an understanding of some limitations. Each of us is responsible for giving voice to daily social injustices in our nation. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it. Are we our brother's keepers? Yes, we are. If we do nothing, the blood will be on our hands. If we do nothing, a segment of our nation will never know human dignity, human potential, or justice. If we do nothing, the corners of our cities will continue to be an eyesore for the nation, as revealed in the mini-series called The Corner, aired on BET. As revealed during the coal mine tragedies in West Virginia, the hollows of the Appalachian Hills of West Virginia will continue to be the aunt in the attic that no one talks about. But everyone knows she is there. If we do nothing, our young black men in our urban communities, criminalized by the war on drugs across this nation, will never know human dignity, human potential, or justice. As seen in the death, Mr. Michael Brown, another young black man killed on the streets of our nation by police in Ferguson, Missouri. Each person here tonight must take responsibility for the destiny of America. There are those who say we have come a long way. Yes, I would agree. The fact that we are here tonight preparing to celebrate a national federal holiday, to celebrate the life of one of America's greatest generals for justice, validates the progress this nation has made since 1619, when the first slaves arrived in what is now known as the state of Virginia. There are those who also say affirmative action programs have run their course, and that these programs today are nothing more than acts of reverse discrimination. I cannot say that I agree, but I can say that I understand your position, given your reference point. But let me help you understand, with all due respect, what it means to be a well-educated and a well-traveled great-granddaughter of a sharecropper in America tonight. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it. America has not understood the sociological phenomenon of generational memory. It has taken me years of sitting at the feet of my elders, 30 plus years of education and reflection, and years of introspective healing to understand why America has not yet fulfilled Dr. King's dream. Why? We have not understood the phenomenon of generational memory of historically disenfranchised people. For you see, the compass of generational memory can be found in the statement, "Let us never forget the struggle we indeed will be destined to repeat it. This generational memory is a voice of injustice that comes down through the generations until it is heard and finds justice through the life of the one who hears the voice. As I sat at the feet of world-renowned scholars at Harvard Divinity School in the 1990s, studying liberation theologies in hope of bringing liberation to the communities I serve, in my mental and emotional state in the classroom, I was actually sitting in the classroom as my mother in the 1930s, sitting on the floor in front of a fireplace, burning her legs, therefore my legs, until she had permanent white spots shown to me by her when I was a child, trying to study and stay warm. This is the fireplace of the home on the land that would never be owned by my great-grandfather, but taken by the children's children of the slave owner. For you see, church, this is the duality of the soul created by the generational memory. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it. For you see, the disenfranchised live in both the present and past simultaneously until the voice of the past is heard and addressed. This reflection leads me to another example of my daily duality and struggle. As I sat on a plane on my way to Africa for the first time to talk to thousands of women about entrepreneurship, in my mental and emotional state on the plane at that moment, I was actually sitting on the plane as the woman of yesterday, sitting at the bottom of a slave ship after being kidnapped from my motherland to be treated as cattle, returning home to say, I survived. This voice of injustice also brings the wounds of injustice. The wound of injustice in its generational silence brings anger and rage. Many never give voices to the injustices because the wounds are so deep and long. The choice becomes either paralysis or rage in daily life in the presence of these memories. The historically disenfranchised here tonight understand the silent pain of the generations searching for a voice in this generation, and the paralysis that can come. Many of our children are not choosing paralysis, but rage. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it. I have come to realize something over the last 30 years, there is a third choice, not taken by many. The third choice is healing. We can no longer wait for America to apologize for atrocities they committed against so many. The disenfranchised of this nation must take their power back from the ones who have historically taken the power and allow the healing to take place so we can pursue human dignity, human potential, and justice, and fulfill Dr. King's dream. First, we must give voice to the pain by identifying the sources. Then we must forgive America. We then must allow ourselves to mourn the great loss of family, life, liberty, and land. If we do nothing, church, the next generation is in grave danger. Our children's children are calling from the wombs of eternity for us to take responsibility for the destiny of America. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones that determine our destinies. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it. To my American brothers and sisters who don't understand what it means to be historically disenfranchised in America, I am not asking you to feel sorry for me. I am not asking you to put another dollar into programs that clearly are not working as they are designed. The only thing that I'm asking of you tonight is that you sit at the table of injustice with me and look me in my eyes until it becomes a table of justice for all. Dr. King is speaking tonight to us through his pursuits and legacy of justice. I believe he is saying we must hold each other responsible for the destiny of America because she is waiting for the dream to be fulfilled. In 1958, Dr. King said in his book, Stride Toward Freedom, that all life is interrelated. He also said all humanity is involved in a single process, and all men are brothers. To the degree that I harm my brother, no matter what he is doing to me, to that extent, I am harming myself. He adds by saying, if you harm me, you harm yourself. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it. My brothers and sisters, as I close, the dream must be fulfilled. Because of the interrelatedness of humanity, as so eloquently described by Dr. King. If one of our children suffers, all of our children suffer. For America to be the America that she so desires to be, all of America must take responsibility and sit at the table of injustice until it becomes the table of justice for all. American citizen, let's keep the dream alive by fulfilling the dream until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. God bless America. Let us never forget the struggle. We indeed will be destined to repeat it.